So how's it going, my comic gentlemen? We're here today with Gary Jones, the creator of The Charge. What's the other two books? I don't have my phone in front of me.
There's Charger,
Sorry. Charger.
Lionheart, and
La-
Grontide.
yeah. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How about you?
Not doing too bad on this beautiful Monday afternoon. Um,
Yeah.
Tell us about your YouTube channel. You do interviews also, right?
Yeah, so I started my YouTube channel back in like 2017, 2018. And originally the plan was to do movie reviews because, I was like, I'm going to be a movie critic. But I didn't stick with it. And, around 2018 is when I started getting into comics more. And early 2024, I decided, you know what? I'm gonna do comic book creator interviews. And around that time, I found your channel, and I was able to glean a little bit of insight from how you do your interviews. And I decided, I'm gonna go ahead and jump into it. And I did about 5 interviews this year, um, once a month, and hopefully going into 2025, I do a few more. But throughout the rest of this year, I'm planning on doing a game show called Nerd Pretty that I thought was a pretty fun idea. You take, just nerd and geek culture and mix it with Jeopardy and get some people on and see if they can get all these questions right and give out like a gift card or something. So I'm pretty excited for it.
Are
It's
you gonna
gonna
do? Go ahead. Are you gonna do it like a pre-recorded like me, or are you gonna do it live?
it's going to be pre-recorded. So the first episode is hopefully going to drop this Friday. I have a lot of editing to do on that, but it's going to be fun.
Sweet. Yeah, I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, yeah. I'll definitely send you the link once I'm done with it because I think it's going to be fun, and I think a lot of people will like it.
And then later down the road, once when you get everything worked out, you can do like live and get people at home to play and give out like a sticker pack or something.
Actually, yeah, that's the goal is to eventually like get this going to where like it gets a pretty large following of people that just want to jump on and have fun with it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
You got a Kickstarter coming up. Does it launch Friday?
So the Kickstarter just started the pre-launch 2 weeks before this episode drops.
Okay.
So the official full launch will probably be closer towards the end of July or the end of middle of August. I mean, looking at around the 12th or 13th, and it's going to be for the Charger, the story that I just finally got through. I would say like 50% of production now. So we're finishing up the colors, and then we'll be jumping into the lettering, and hopefully I can have this book done before the Kickstarter ends, so that I can just print the books and get it out to people as soon as it's done.
Do you have to do a is there a waiting period from setting up the Kickstarter to you launch it? Does Kickstarter have to look over it or anything?
Yeah. So when you create the Kickstarter, they usually make you wait like 3 days before you can do your pre-launch. The cool thing about it for me though is because I've done a Kickstarter before, they reviewed my Kickstarter and approved it either like a couple of hours after I submitted it or the next day. So it wasn't too long of a wait.
That's
And
pretty cool.
yeah, so like it made it easy, and I liked the fact that they give you the option to do the pre-launch so you can build up your followers and get people excited for it. Um, I have a lot of interesting ideas I've been trying to play with this Kickstarter. One idea that I've really wanted to do was like do a partnership with another creator who does like graphic design and stuff, and so he's going to be including a coloring book which people can get in one of the
Mm.
tiers of the Kickstarter.
Yeah. Tell us about the coloring book.
Yeah, so it's called Mindfulness. It's a coloring book by my friend Otis McClure. He is a graphic designer out of St. Louis, Missouri, and he does really good work. And it's a Kickstarter, or it's a coloring book that's supposed to be like a way for people that deals with like anxiety, depression, mental health type stuff to be
Mm.
able to just like relax and like do something that gets their mind off of the stresses of life and whatnot. It's pretty cool, and I thought it was very fitting to add into the Kickstarter for the Charger.
What's the elevator pitch for the Charger?
So the Charger is a story about an ex-Air Force pilot who discovers she has powers after a devastating crash. She then has to go on a journey of self-discovery to understand, not to understand, but to really grasp the concept of legacy. Um, the story came about from struggling and really dealing with my own idea and concept of like, what do I want to leave, when I'm gone, and how I want to have an impact in the world, and realizing that my impact and my legacy isn't going to be based upon anyone else's view of me, isn't going to be based on where I came from or anything. Is going to be based on what I've done in life. And so I wanted to take that type of story and kind of put that in a comic, and that's how I came up with the Charger. So Layla Brown, aka the Charger, she's going to be struggling and dealing with the idea of having these newfound powers while also realizing, okay, I'm no longer in the Air Force. Who am I? I built my whole identity around being in the military, being in the Air Force, and following in my dad's footsteps. Now I have to create my own path.
I like it. How many issues do you have planned?
So the goal is to do a 12 issue series for this first arc, and then do maybe 3 more arcs for the Charger, and each arc would have 12 issues. Each 12 issue arc will be broken up into 2 halves, 6 books, a one shot, and then another 6 books. That's how I planned on doing each of my stories for all of my characters.
What is this, like a 7-10 year plan?
I would say about maybe 10 to 15.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the goal. Because I have some crossover stories I want to do as well, which, those I plan on doing no more than 8 issues of. So it'll be after I finish the first arc for each of the characters, it'll be the crossover, and then it'll keep going until I've effectively have ended my universe, which is crazy to say when it comes to comics because they never end.
Right, yeah. We was just talking about that. Like, nobody truly dies in comics,
Yeah,
except for Uncle Ben and Bucky.
yeah, that is true.
So, what is Lionheart about?
So Lionheart, it's funny. That was a story that I came up with when I was reading Green Arrow Rebirth. I really loved that story, and I loved how they handled Oliver Queen and introducing John Diggle in there. So the story of Lionheart is, I'll say, the quick elevator pitch for that would be an orphan Mexican American girl goes on a path of revenge after she finds out the man who killed her biological family also killed her adoptive family.
I like it.
I really channeled a lot of the Daredevil stories in creating this story because I read a lot of the old Frank Miller Daredevil. Loved it, and so I was like, yeah, I got to find a way to make this into my own type of story.
So she doesn't have any superpowers?
No superpowers. She's MMA fighter when the story starts out, and she develops that even further as the series will progress.
I like it. When are you planning on doing the crossover with all your books?
So the plan is to kind of tease that towards the end of 2025. So I have 2 more books I have to get made. And once I have those made, I'm going to do a collection graphic novel type book that's going to have 5 pages of extra art in it that is never going to be seen before. And it'll probably be once I finish the 12th issue of the last book, I'll start working on getting the art made for that crossover, which I think is going to be a very fun and extremely ambitious endeavor.
Are you gonna keep the same artist through the whole thing?
That's my hope. Um, having an artist for these type of projects is pretty difficult sometimes. A lot of artists, they go through different changes. They sometimes decide that they want to do their own stuff, and they drop everything else. Sometimes they get someone else to kind of work with, and they decide they don't want to have you as a client or anything. So I'm hoping I can keep the same artist, but we'll see.
What's the name of your artist?
So I use a studio out of Nigeria called Waimi Studios. They're the
Okay.
ones who did Grontide, and they're working on Charger right now. And I like the work that they're doing on Charger. And once the Kickstarter goes live, I'm really excited to share some of that art because it looks pretty good.
So is it like a studio and they just show you all their artists' work and you get to pick like, hey, I want to work with them or I like their art?
Yeah, yeah. The artist that did Brontide wasn't available for Charger, so the art for Charger is going to look a little bit different than the art for Brontide, but the colorists and the letterers and all, they're all part of that same studio, and they usually show me like 2 or 3 different pieces of art, and they're like, which one would you like?
Yeah, it's pretty cool that they got like a business doing it. It gives you a little bit more um what's the word I'm looking for? Insurance,
Right.
instead of just talking to somebody over Messenger or wherever.
Yeah, yeah. I like it because it does give you a lot more flexibility in choosing art, and you know anyone who creates comics, they have a vision of what the
Mm.
art is going to look like, and so finding that artist that just can capture that vision and sometimes enhance it, ideally, is important to me.
What advice would you have for new creators out there?
My biggest piece of advice for any new creator is just be patient. Um, I started writing comics in 2018, and I didn't release my first story, which was Brontide, until 2022. And I went through a lot of changes. I even had a book that I started and it got published, but after really looking at it and realizing I didn't understand the concept of how to make comics, went back and rewrote everything and started over. And now I'm here to the point where like I feel real good about what I'm printing and publishing, and it made me realize like just don't rush it. They say all good things come to those who wait, and so when you're waiting, you're not just being still, you're not just being idle, you're actively doing other things. So I went to different classes, I read other scripts, I studied, and got to the point where I understood at least pretty decently enough how to make a good comic. And now I'm to the point where I'm publishing comics and people are like, yeah, this is actually really good. And so, that's my biggest piece of advice. Just be patient, don't try to rush it, and allow yourself to learn and be a student of the medium, and then publish when you're ready.
Yeah, I think that's got to feel real good when, family and friends and people in your circle I tell you it's good, even if it may not be, but a complete stranger telling you it's good,
Right.
you know, that's that
Yeah.
holds a lot of weight. Where are you going to be at this year? What signings do you have planned?
Um, so I went to Augusta Comic Con, which is a small Comic Con in Augusta, Georgia, a few months ago. Back around, actually, it was beginning of June, June 1st, actually. That was my first con that I've ever been to as a vendor. So that was a little nerve wracking, but it was pretty fun. Um, the only other con I'm going to will be in Baltimore at the end of September. And I'm excited for it. That's going to be the biggest con I've ever been to, like in general.
Mm,
And so, with it being the biggest con I've ever been to, plus it being the biggest con I've ever been to as a vendor, it's going to be a learning experience, and it's going to be something that I'm going to hopefully use to my advantage going forward.
yeah, make a lot of connections.
Yeah, that's my biggest goal. Like throughout this year and going into next year is just trying to build the connections, network. Because I feel like a lot of people think that making comics is kind of like this individual solitary type of thing, and you have to have connections. You have to have a network, even if it's not people that you actively work with, but just other creators that you can say, hey, this is what I'm doing. Can you help me with this? Or hey, I see this is what you're doing. You're doing this Kickstarter. Let me promote you, this, that, and the third. Like, I think things like that are very important.
Oh yeah, I think it's all ships rise or something like that. The saying is.
Yeah, the tide rises all ships. Yeah, I love
Yeah, thank you.
that.
What social medias are you on?
I have all of it. I'm mostly active on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. Uh, I've been on Threads a lot more the last year and a half. But um, I would say I have Twitter, but I don't use it as much.
Yeah.
It's Twitter. I'll say that it's Twitter. But I mean, on most social medias, if you look up GMTJ, you can find me.
Okay. So dead or alive, who would you like to make a comic book with? Your dream team.
This is a good question.
You got a second chance at it. Yeah, you had 24 hours to think about it.
Right. And you would think that I would know the artist, but I know one correction I do want to make. So Jeff Johns, I still want to be my editor. I would love to have him edit my book. I would love to work with and collaborate with Chip Zdarsky. I loved his Daredevil run. I thought that was absolutely beautiful. And I love what he's done with Batman. Mm-hmm. So I definitely want to be in collaboration with Chip Zdarsky. I still can't remember the name of the artist who did the art for the Nightwing Rebirth.
I'll look it up and I'll put it in there at post. But go ahead.
But yeah, I love his art. I thought the way he did that was really good. So yeah, that would be my dream team, honestly.
I like it. Yeah, I like what Chip is doing with Batman. I think it's gonna come to an end soon.
I think so.
His
yeah.
run.
Yeah.
With this all new all in DC movement they're doing initiative.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I don't know. I'm always hesitant when DC makes these big changes like this because, sometimes you'll get a rebirth, sometimes you'll get a new 52. And it's like, new 52 wasn't all bad, but it wasn't all good either. As long as they just, stick to, well, no, I'll say this. As long as they try something new, then I'll be okay. Because that's one of the things that I think sometimes has hurt comics in general is when publishers just stick to the status quo instead of trying something new, which I get it. Like a lot of comic fans can be fickle about changing things, but I think change is good and I'm all about it.
Yeah, with Zeb Wells on Spider-Man.
I read bits and pieces of that run.
It doesn't.
I don't hate it. But I get the hatred for that whole run. I get it.
Oh yeah, I think it's going to end soon. I think it's like 53 or 52.
Yeah,
it's going to end. Yeah,
I might read it all the way through once it ends. I'm not a big Spider-Man fan, but I have moments where I like, what? Let me see what they're doing with the webhead.
I like Spider-Boy. What they've been doing with that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Dan Slott is definitely one of my favorite writers right now, and his addition to Spider-Boy is really great.
Especially this second arc where he's traveling the multiverse.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I'm excited for that for sure.
Is there anything you want to say before we go?
If you're a comic creator and you're watching this, enjoy the process of making comics.
All right, man. I appreciate you taking the time to come talk with me.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate you having me on.
What? You mean you haven't subscribed to Comicchatauthority? Oh, come on. Subscribe already. What are you waiting for? It's no big deal. Like, man, don't forget to tell him to hit that like button. Yeah, that too. Just subscribe.